I'm Pepper.
And I'm Piper.
And welcome to the Everything Pink Show. Today we're talking about the new rules for accounting for leases, and we've got some super special guests too.
Until now, CPAs have been using FASB 13 for guidance for leases.
And that offered two options for the lessee: operating leases and capital leases.
And the lessor had three choices: operating leases, sale-type leases, and financing leases.
But that's all changing now as we are moving to a right-of-use model.
I suppose that makes sense because when you rent a piece of equipment, you don't actually own the equipment. What you do own is the right to use it for a period of time.
Right you are!
Let's get started with Pink Tech today as we look at ways to work smarter and have some fun. Let's look at some basic concepts as we look at technology. What have you got to show us today, Pepper?
I want to show you my new Max iPad 6 Plus.
Wow, that's even bigger than the Max iPad.
Well, Piper, sometimes I just need a little more confidence, but that's not important. I've got some great new apps to show you. I'll send them up to our big screen so our audience can see as well. Look, I can stay in touch through social media.
How about exchanging ideas?
Yep, got that too.
Wow, I just love Pinterest.
But more importantly, I have a new app that will give us the basics of the lease standard. It's called All BS, which stands for All Leases Located on Balance Sheet.
It looks like the basic concept is that an entity should recognize assets and liabilities arising from a lease.
That's right. Basically, all leases will be located on the balance sheet. You know, All BS.
So how should a lease be classified?
Let's see.
Wow, it looks like classification will be based on whether the lessee is expected to consume more than an insignificant portion of the economic benefit of the asset. That sounds difficult.
Not a problem. According to my app, that will be primarily based on the nature of the asset.
By the way, do you have the latest version of my favorite game?
Why, of course I do. It's my favorite too, Belligerent Birds. And now it's time for Cooking Pink. What are you fixing us today, Piper?
Just like a good recipe, when you account for the lessee, there are steps to follow for success. We begin by determining the type of lease. If the lessee will consume more than an insignificant portion of the asset, then it will be a Type A lease. And if not, it will be a Type B lease. Let's add a Type A lease. At the commencement of the lease, we'll need to set up a right-of-use asset and a liability to make the lease payments.
So, the lease will go on the balance sheet?
Right you are, Pepper. Next, we add the income statement. First, we have interest expense on the liability. Then we add amortization on the asset.
But what about the lease expense?
There is none.
How very strange.
And to top it off, we add a few disclosures and we're done.
Pink and perfect. Great job, Piper.
You know, Pepper, I think we need to take a look at how the lessee would handle a Type B lease.
To get a different point of view on this topic, we're going to Paris via satellite to our travel correspondent, Steve Ricks. Hey, Steve.
Hi, girls, and welcome to the Paris in Pink celebration.
Wow, it's pretty.
It's perfect.
It's pink.
What can you tell us about a Type B lease, Steve?
Well, actually, the lessee will record an asset and liability just like they would for a Type A lease. In other words, it really doesn't matter from the standpoint of the lessee what type of lease it is. They all go on the balance sheet.
Well, what about the income statement?
Well, that will be different. Let me take you to the stunning Notre Dame Cathedral to explain this one. The lessee will combine the unwinding of the discount on the lease with the amortization to form a single straight-line lease expense.
So there will be an actual lease expense for a Type B.
Right as rain, Pepper.
but that will mean the expense would be different based on the type of a lease.
Right again. A Type A lease will be front-end loaded, while a Type B will not. Before I go, let me take you to the famous Louvre Museum. Let's take a peek and see what the Paris in Pink Committee has done for the Mona Lisa. Isn't she just beautiful?
Absolutely gorgeous.
She's pretty in pink.
And no trip to Paris would be complete without pink champagne. Here's a toast to you, girls.
Cheers, Steve!
Now it's time for us to review our favorite pink entertainment for the week.
And we'll also look at the lessor's accounting treatment for a Type A lease.
Let's begin with Pink's anatomy.
On this week's episode, they had to save a patient from the original exposure draft.
That was scary because under that proposal, they would have to have used a crazy concept known as the performance obligation approach. What about your favorite, Piper?
Well, you know, that would have to be pink is the new black. And in this episode, they discovered that on the balance sheet, they removed the asset and set up a receivable in its place.
But now for my favorite. I've been waiting for this movie forever, and it's finally here.
Let's look at the income statement in this clip of 50 Shades of Pink.
Are you ready to try something new?
I think so.
First, recognize profit on the lease at the commencement date.
As if it had been sold?
Yes.
What next?
Go to the balance sheet,
Yes.
look at the receivable,
Yes.
and recognize the discount over time in the income statement.
You mean interest income?
Yes.
Oh.
Whoa! I am glad we stopped that clip when we did.
I need to cool down for a bit. Let's move on to fashion.
Now it's time for one of my favorite pink things, our pink fashion makeover.
Who's our special guest today?
Some of you may recognize him from his syndicated TV show, but when we get done with him, he'll be a new man. Fashion-wise, that is. Welcome, Dog, the peer reviewer.
Welcome to the show. May I call you Dog?
Sure, I'm not too sure about this. It was, well, my wife's idea.
You're gonna be fine. Before we get started, could you tell us about the lessor's treatment of a Type B lease?
Oh man, they got off easy on that one.
Here, let's start with this. But how did they get off easy, Dog?
They begin by keeping the asset on the balance sheet.
Well, that makes sense. It does belong to them. Here, how about we swap out your glasses?
You need a new cell phone as well. So what about the income statement?
Well, they simply recognize the lease payments over time as lease income.
Wow, just like an old operating lease.
Yeah, pretty much.
Why don't you go get pinked?
Right.
Well, what do you think, Pepper?
Perfectly pink. What do you think, Dog?
I don't know about him, but I really like it. Can y'all fix me up too?
Love to, but we're out of time.
Join us next week on the Everything Pink Show. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I think you
We need a flower too. Let's be flowers.
Might get me out of here. This ain't gonna work.
This is so
Will you
beautiful.
call my bondsman, please? Just help me. All this is ridiculous.